Well, it's that time of the month again. We gotta pick a class to design weapons for. Medic it is! Alright, so we're going to use Acer 9011's generator for this one. If you don't know exactly how this works, basically I will generate a couple random weapons for the medic in this case, fix the stats up a little bit, and design what they might look like if they were added to Team Fortress 2. So let's stop wasting time, let's start crafting until we find something that looks kind of interesting. Well, that didn't take long. Fortunately for us, the new generator has a lot more stats added, and it looks like the guy who made this Acer 9011 knew how to design some interesting stuff for the medic. So let's take a look at the base stats that we have right now. So a new medigun for the medic. The Uber charge is plus 300% movement speed for 6 seconds. I don't know if that would be super helpful. I feel like that would be too fast to adequately do anything. That's a little bonkers. But yeah, the pros, or the actual pros, are plus 65% maximum overheal, and the cons are plus 65 or 85% explosive damage vulnerability on wear, and minus 40% movement speed while deployed. So I think having an Uber charge that increases movement speed is interesting. I just don't think that movement speed by itself is a good Uber charge, especially only for 6 seconds. Like, plus 300% movement speed is freaking hilarious, and this is like a troll weapon. This is almost as bad as the 500% jump height medigun that I saw in the last one, but I think that these stats, if we mess with them a little bit, have some decent potential. Alright, so after some deliberation, here is the final medigun that I have come up with here. So basically what the Uber is for this is it's a flat stat boost. I've not seen anything in the game that has like a little bit of everything, but nothing in particular. So basically on Uber charge, you're getting extra movement speed, extra damage in the form of mini crits, and extra damage resistance, but it's only for 5 seconds. Now, to make up for this, we have a plus 125% Uber charge rate, which means that instead of the normal 40 seconds to build, it's only taking, if I did the math right, like 16 seconds-ish, 15, something like that. It builds really, really quick if you're only healing injured players, and you also get plus 25% maximum overheal to coincide with that stat boost. And the cons are minus 25% heal rate, so that way it doesn't make it so your target's pretty much invincible. It just, I don't know, 25% minus heal rate it just feels right for something like this to balance it out a little bit. So the purpose of this medigun is that it would essentially allow you to rush in, get a couple picks, and get out. Unlike other mediguns, which are used for full pushes, this could be used for kind of like a partial push, or it would allow you to win any kind of duel, because, I mean, you'd have more movement speed, more crits, or more damage, less damage taken, and but it only lasts for 5 seconds, which is how fast you should be able to win a duel in anyway. And you're going to be able to win the duels more often because the Uber charge rate's going to be jacked up through the roof, so assuming you encounter somebody once every 15 seconds, you're going to be able to have that bonus. But at the same time, the Uber charge only lasts for 5 seconds, meaning that if you encounter a large group of players, you can't just tear through them. You can maybe use the movement speed to retreat or something. Generally, I think this is a pretty good mix of like almost every single medigun there is, and I would be curious to see how this would play out. But yeah, it's mainly just for like winning duels and not necessarily for like these large-scale pushes. And I know I'm taking a little bit of liberties from the original stats, but I am keeping the movement speed, the increased maximum overheal, and I don't think any of the cons, but I don't know. This is what I get inspired by, I guess, so take it as you will. As I was doing research, I found an extra class that someone designed for TF2 called the Knight. Now, this looks exactly like an Overwatch character, specifically this one, but I don't know, I just thought I'd point this out. It's kind of funny. So the basic shape of a medigun, essentially, what most of them use is there's like this back area, and there's a barrel, and there is a nozzle. Kind of not too dissimilar to like maybe a fireman's hose or something like that. So we'll generally stick to this type of concept so it's still recognizable as a medigun, but outside of that, we have a lot of room to play around. Now, in terms of inspiration, we're actually not completely out of luck. We might actually be able to pull from something like this, maybe. I want the gun to be sleek, and I think some kind of like ray gun might be a decent starting point for us here. So I think I have a pretty good reference image here. So generally, we're going to actually start with the nozzle. So the nozzle looks something like this, and it's a lot more conical than the other mediguns would be, but this definitely helps the silhouette stand out a little bit more. And then I feel like a lot of ray guns, for some reason, have like really thin beams with these like stupid rings around them like this. I don't know why that was such a common trend among ray guns. I don't know like what the frick the rings were supposed to do. If it was just like a weird aesthetic choice or how they even expected them to float there in the first place. But you know what? This is TF2. I don't think anybody like would question weird design choices anyway. And just to appease the minority who's very, very vocal, we're going to use the line tool. Yes, I know the line tool exists. The point of me using not the line tool in the past was just so I could draw everything by hand. But we'll do it now. People won't be quiet about it. And I am, of course, just messing with you. Your feedback is always appreciated. But anyway, yes, look at these nice, clean, straight lines compared to the other crap that's right here. I feel like this is looking like a plunger the more things I add. Hopefully that'll be fixed before long. Then what I'm thinking of doing here, one of the bodies that I might want to do for this is kind of like this, where it's like... not exactly like that. That looks like a tentacle. Actually, never mind. I don't think I can make this not look like a tentacle. I don't want my ambitions to be killed because of my lack of ability to do something, but if it looks like really off, I might have to make an exception. Yeah, I don't know. This looks like the freaking suction gun from Luigi's Mansion, but maybe that's just the plunger tip. I don't know. All right, so now that we have the basic outline of this done, we need to add a little bit of the details. Now, first of all, let's remove the weirdness that using ellipses causes. So my two thoughts on how to actually color this are making everything like a really dark gray or making everything chrome. I feel like chrome fits the aesthetic better, but dark gray just looks better. Frick it, we're doing chrome. All the mediguns are like black. Okay, so here's a pretty decent base. This looks a lot like the degreaser. Again, just pretend that like everything here would be really shiny. I guess we can add like highlights and lighting and stuff, but it's kind of hard to show that just with what I'm doing right now. So now we need to add a little bit of glowing things to make this really kind of hit the point home that this is some weird technological marvel. I guess the medigun normally is anyway. But yes, let's make there be like little red light thingies here going on the outside, and I guess these would be blue on the blue team. I am liking how the lights are turning out. Now, keep in mind too that these would be like sunken into the weapon. Like theoretically, there would be like some red core that's just glowing out, and then the lines are just like little windows so you can see the light. Now, I want to decorate this a little bit with yellow as well. I feel like bringing in like other... not really neutral colors, but colors that don't represent either of the teams is something I've not done enough in these. And yellow and green, more so yellow, because I think it's more consistent with what you'd expect for certain weapons, is a great way to do that. So we're going to be decorating this with yellow. And I know these aren't exactly perfect rings here, but basically just something like this along the front barrel I think would be really cool. And we can add a little bit more yellow elsewhere, but this actually looks like a really cool aesthetic choice. I can imagine this being like some healing ray in like a sci-fi movie or something. Okay, this is actually a lot cooler than I thought it would turn out to be. The only other thing that I necessarily want to add, I think this is the appropriate level of detail. There certainly could be something added on the back here, but the only other thing that I want to add before I add the handles is a little glass thingy back here. So like something kind of like protruding off the back like this, just to make some... I don't freaking know what this is. It's sci-fi. Everything's here just for show anyway. And I didn't do a very good job of portraying this, but this is like supposed to be glass, basically. Like there's like liquid sloshing around in the back here. What is any of this? I have no idea. Just take it in stride. Pretend that this is supposed to mean something and isn't just like weird fantasy sci-fi tech, I guess. And I think, for all intents and purposes, this is good to go for whatever the frick this abomination is. The perspective on the handles is a little weird, and I honestly cannot be bothered to fix it, so we're going to leave it that way and hope that if anybody wants to redraw it, they know what I'm going for. So now, of course, we have to name this thing, and, well, I have an idea, I think. You know, it's times like these that I'm kind of upset they already made a Blitzkrieg pun, although I guess that would be the most obvious thing for literally anything related to rushing in. I think for the name, what I'm gonna do is something along the lines of the adrenaline rush, because people experiencing high levels of adrenaline are more likely to be stronger, more resistant to general damage, faster, that type of thing. And I think that's, I mean, very along the lines of what the weapon would do. And the adrenaline rush also is a pun, because this weapon would be used for rushing, or more specifically winning duels, but rushing, hey. And on top of that, we can add to the collection of weapons in TF2 that no one knows what the frick to pronounce, alongside the Shan and the Clade Mahid Momor. So we're gonna go with the Adrenaline Rausch. I think that's how you pronounce that. Wait.
Adrenalinrausch.
Okay, yes, of course. So here's the Adrenaline Rush as it is. I probably could have picked a different name. As always, I love reading through your guys' name suggestions, so if you have a better one for this, let me know. I would definitely be curious to hear it, but here it is. I'm actually pretty proud of this one, but yeah, let's move on. So the next weapon I want to do, I want to either be a syringe gun or a bone saw, because as fun as it would be to draw like 25 different medi guns, I want a full loadout, and that's kind of what I've tried to do with every video, although the spy one was an exception because it doesn't really generate sappers or watches. So yeah, let's keep going and see what we can find. Okay, here's an interesting syringe gun. So we have on hit gain 6 uber percentage, guaranteed crits on crit boosted players, 95% explosive damage resistance while deployed, and on hit inflicts knockback. And knockback greatly scales on a crit apparently. And the cons are minus 55% movement speed on wear and minus 15% clip size. I feel like the obvious choice for any single syringe gun that people are going to make is on hit gain uber percentage. That's like something that's been suggested since the beginning of time to make the syringe gun viable over the crossbow, is basically like making it a ranged uber saw. And I wouldn't be opposed to doing that, but I want to make something more interesting, because ultimately I feel bad when I just like rip off very common concepts. I want this to be interesting. So knowing that, I'm probably going to remove the on-hit gain uber because I see a more interesting stat here to work with. Alright, so here's my interesting stats for this. Basically, this is a force of nature for the medic. They called me a madman. I didn't think a mobility-based syringe gun was even possible, but here we are. So basically, the concept of this is pretty much like the syringe gun. You can fire this at the ground, you're going to get some height. You can fire this diagonally down, you're going to get some, like, long jump potential. I don't know, you can get creative with how you want to use this mobility. But unlike the force of nature, because this fires a constant stream of projectiles, this basically would make it so you can, like, control the arc in which you're flying in faster. But the reason why I lowered the clip size to only 25 instead of the default 40 is because I wanted it to be like a limited amount of time that you could actually be in the air, so you only have like 25 shots that fire significantly faster as well, to be able to, I guess, use this in midair, and then you're just gonna fall afterwards. So you can't just fly around the map. There is like some limitations on it based on these stats, but I thought it would be interesting to kind of make this it really is just a force of nature for the medic. And then the faster projectile speed kind of re-emphasizes the fact that this is a weapon that shoots with some force. And then, I mean, the damage penalties just to make the damage output on this reasonable. I guess because you're reloading more often, it's like still pretty good. I think if I did the math correctly, I would have to do it again with like ramp up and everything, but the 15% damage penalty makes it so this ends up having... It doesn't allow you to kill in one clip, and this weapon's not supposed to be for damage, I guess. It's just supposed to be for like mobility, with the added benefit that it does a decent amount of damage as well. Oh, and before somebody asks, yes, this absolutely is based on the old glitch that allowed you to push people with syringes. I just kind of thought it would be interesting to like also make it so it pushed you as well. So the syringe gun, right? Medic is a super well-designed character in Team Fortress 2 because they had almost nothing to work with, right? Like, it's not like the syringe gun is something in real life that they just kind of had to adapt to fit the Team Fortress 2 art style. No, the syringe gun is basically like a completely new invention. Same thing with the medigun, and I guess the bone saw is already something, but like pretty much all of the bone saws the medic has, to my knowledge, are original. Now, there are some inspirations that can be seen, but I mean, most of Medic's kit is designed completely from scratch, which is great because that means that Team Fortress 2 has a lot of really creative and unique concepts. But when I'm doing something like this, I don't know what the frick to base half this stuff on, so it's a little bit challenging. So I think my initial thought was to make something that looks kind of like a compressed air cannon, and I don't know. Here, wait, we need to check a very important historical fact, because if we have historical inaccuracy in my TF2 game, that would be bad. We're just going to also ignore the fact that the last medigun I have was something right out of Alien. Anyway, okay, PVC pipes look like they would be allowed in this because they were invented in the 40s. Cool. So that means that anything that I can find that looks kind of homebrewy is fair game. I mean, I guess I could just substitute, like, the PVC portions for, like, steel pipes, but you know what the frick ever. I want to do something, like, compressed air-based. I think that would fit the theme pretty well. The heck are some of these things? What am I finding? I might have gone down the rabbit hole a little bit too deep. Ooh, wait, this is an actual thing? A jet injector? Oh, it's from the 1980s, but you know what? We're gonna cheat. This is really interesting looking. Okay, what the actual frick did I find? Fluid suckback? God, this looks like actually dangerous to use. What the heck? This looks like some like lobotomy tier medicine. I don't know. Oh, geez, yeah. This is a 47 source Wikipedia page that's barely this long. So it looks like somebody did something similar for another project. It looks like a zombie shooter. This is actually along the lines, almost exactly what I was thinking. So I'm going to use something like this, except instead of a fluid, I think I'm going to use just like loaded syringes in here. Although I guess that really wouldn't make much sense because that's not how these work. You know, maybe this could be, like, fluid-based. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities for this. We'll have to see what we land on. If I was a lazier individual, I would actually just make something that had the same, like, general theme as the medigun that we just made, but I'm gonna make something different because item sets are cheating because you only have to think of, like, one concept. So we'll make this different enough, okay? All right. I think we're gonna start by making the nozzle, like, pretty skinny, kind of like this one as well. I think the general body shape is going to be similar just because of how the jet injections are made, I guess. But most of them that I'm seeing have, like, a pretty thick body with, like, a thin barrel that has a cylinder on the end, so if I would have known about this before we made the medigun, that would have been helpful, but oh well, they're different. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to make the barrel pretty long, and this way, again, we want a different silhouette than the other medigun. I know these are different types of weapons, but we still don't want it to be too confusing. We want these to be able to be told apart at a very quick glance, and I feel like with the shorter barrel we're not going to be able to have that. And the more I think about it, the more I think I want the body of this syringe gun to be pretty boxy, because otherwise if it's not boxy and it's like a giant cylinder, I think it's going to be a little bit hard to differentiate at a glance from the Blutsauger. I don't know how to pronounce that, okay? The health drain injection thingy. Excellent. So now we need to make it look like there is some kind of area for the little canister of fuel to come in. Although I think I'm going to do a little bit of coloring first because that's going to be mostly glass, and I'm not entirely sure how I want to draw that, because I feel like drawing it with the detail included is going to be a little bit easier than drawing the outline and trying to, like, make it look transparent later. So then that will be the handle, and this is going to be a very tricky weapon to draw because I want to add a fuel gauge on, or like a little pressure gauge on one of the sides. But it's going to be hard to do that based on the perspective we're currently working with, so we might just have to, like, use our imaginations with some things, and, because I really don't want to draw two perspectives of a weapon. One is, like, already stretching my, my talents a little bit hard enough, so we'll just, we'll figure out how we're gonna do this, I guess. So I think this is a pretty solid main body. I think this looks actually very similar to what I was originally using as the reference. I'm not using the image that I showed here. I'm using this one right here. But yeah, this actually is coming along pretty well. Now, I need to figure out how exactly I'm going to work in the canister of liquid into it. I was going to originally add it in the same place that the syringe guns normally have their reload stuff, so like back here I would add something, but I think that would make it look a little bit too close to this because both of them would have like liquid sloshing around in the back, and not to mention it would have a little bit too many similarities with the Crusader's crossbow at this point. So I think I'm going to have it right here coming out at an angle, and I guess we'll see what that looks like. All right, this is the final body outline that I think I'm going to use. I've been recording for way longer than what's going to stay in the final cut of this, so just know that I do this all for you guys, but holy crap, good art takes a long time to complete. And I'm gonna make the water, kind of what I'm thinking about for the, I don't know if it's really water. Whatever the injection serum is basically using the cream spirit colors. So like here, you can look at the cream spirit color palette right here, but just generally stuff like that I want to start incorporating more, and I think incorporating it into this liquid makes the most sense, because probably this is going to be a lot more convincing for something that would be injected than like just some bright red or bright blue liquid would be. Okay, so here's some coloring on everything. The outlines are definitely one of the biggest issues at the moment, just because I'm using the paint fill tool for fast coloring of some of these large areas, and it's a little bit weird to say the least. I'm going for general concepts, not like perfect line work, so we'll just suffer through, and maybe I'll fix it if I'm like really perfectionist at the end, but this is already taking a very long time, so let's just let's add the final details here. So for the pressure valve, I want it to be pretty simplistic, I guess. Like, there isn't really much of a need to make it's just a pretty standard pressure valve, so there's not much of a need to make it super fancy. The problem is that you would be seeing the readings as it's facing your view model, and the way that I've drawn this doesn't allow you to see that face, so you're gonna have to pretend that there's something on there yourself, or maybe I could just draw it backwards and you pretend that it's the other way around. I don't know. Either way, there's gonna be some pretending, and I don't know really how we're going to get around that, so you'll just have to put up with it, I guess. And I don't know what it could even be on this pressure gauge. My original thought was maybe having it display your Uber percentage or something, but like, I don't know if that would really be a good idea, because this doesn't really have to do with like Uber necessarily. So maybe displaying like an empty to full meter, or like some kind of pressure. I don't know what pressure is even rated in like kilopascals. I don't know. You can get creative with what's going to be on here, but basically showing how much ammo is left. Although I feel like this little thing of liquid draining would also show how much ammo is left. So let me know in the comments what should be on the pressure gauge. I know it's a very specific comment to leave, but hey, someone needs to know. And of course, we need to add some kind of tube to make it look like this is something that actually would transfer liquid from one area to the other. I don't know. Tubes are just cool, and maybe we can add jiggle physics with the actual weapon, so it's never really a downside in my opinion. And yeah, I think this is ultimately what I'm going to end up doing with the hose. I didn't necessarily want this to be a thing, because I wanted it to look a little bit more fluid with the reload animation. That's the main issue that I'm having with this right now, is how exactly this would be reloaded, because my initial thought was like, okay, the tube would come out of the top and they'd put a new one in, but if there's like a tube going, or I guess the vial is what this would be called, but if there's a tube going from the vial to the gun, Maybe we could put like some little platform that this would rest on down here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That makes it at least look like the tube can go out and in without having to like... Yeah, I don't know. This is just a weird design. I wanted the tube there for a detail, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I think it looks cool, so I'm going to keep it because frick you. And then I think the detailing that I'm going to do is kind of like these lines representing like wind or something, or like somehow implying speed to show that there would be a lot of force behind this. I don't know. This weapon is so weird because it's like... There's a lot of logistical problems because it's so much different than the rest of like Team Fortress 2's stuff, but like something like this maybe even, where it would be some kind of just something implying speed. I don't know what the frick this shape even is, but there's motion in it. And then the other thing we'll make team colored is the trigger itself, because I realized I don't have that. And I feel like not a lot of weapons do this for some reason. All right, last bit of detailing I'm going to do is adding a label to the bottle, because I think it would make the bottle look a little bit less devoid of anything, I guess. I don't know. I'm just trying to do some minor detailing, and this weapon's already weird enough, so I'm trying to figure out where I can actually do that. Okay, I'm liking this a little bit better after the detailing. Here's my final design. I mean, I've pretty much explained everything and what it's supposed to be. The handle, the weirdness on here is just supposed to be like a textured grip, just to make it a little grippier. I don't freaking know how to draw that, so we'll just leave it as like a weird dotty portion. But yeah, I like how this turned out quite a bit. I think just kind of these subtle lines, just kind of representing the force of everything is the best way to incorporate the team color here. Obviously the lines would be like a navy shade of blue, and then the liquid would be the opposite cream spirit color, but that would be the only thing that would change in between the red and the blue versions. And it is now time to give this thing a name. I think out of the synonyms for push, because I was thinking about like puns that would be similar to like force and nature, but I don't think Medic really has anything like that in his established character stuff, and I don't want to like go inventing new character traits for the Medic just to like name a weapon. So I think something like the thruster or the propeller or something like that would be pretty good to include. Actually, here's an interesting idea. So looking at idioms here, it looks like pushback is one of them, and I remember when I was reading about this a couple minutes ago, or probably closer to a couple hours ago, the injector thingies had quite a bit of medical pushback because they were apparently extremely dangerous. So I think including pushback in this would be pretty interesting, and I think that would be kind of a multi-pun, which is honestly as good as you're going to get with weapon names. I think what I'm going to end up calling this is the Professional's Pushback, or Professional Pushback, either one. I have it here as Professional. I don't know. This is a kind of hard one to name. I like the term, or I like the pun that pushback kind of creates, but I'm not super satisfied with this one, so if you have any ideas of what I could name this, please let me know, as well as any design changes that you might make. This one has so many different directions, and I've been so, like, I've not satisfied, or I've not, like, been satisfied, I guess, with any specific direction to take this, so I've been kind of all over the place. But yes, please feel free to leave me feedback on any of these, but I guess the community names it weapon for this video will be this fun-looking injector, so let me know in the comments. Okay, let's move on. Okay, for the very last one, I want it to be a bone saw, and I'm actually going to try to use the 5-attribute generator just to see how this goes. I feel like this is gonna, the fact that it generates a lot of stats is gonna make it easier to like pick and choose the ones that I want, so there are more possibilities per weapon, but at the same time I take a lot of creative liberties anyway, so I don't want it to be like too overwhelming and then I just can't think of anything. So we'll see, maybe I'll end up using this from now on, but there's one way to find out. Okay, this generated with some interesting stats. I thought the problem I was going to run into with like the bone saw was that a lot of melees in the stat generator are combat oriented, and like obviously you don't really want that with an uber saw, or I say it the uber saw, but like it's a good example of like why utility is so good, because uber saw is basically stock on medic at this point. But like because you really want utility, I thought like combat-oriented stats would be an issue, but we got this lovely stat right here. And this, highlight the dang thing, this is gonna be really interesting to work with. Okay, so here are the new stats. So essentially what I have done is I've worked off the healing gained from dealing damage. I think that would be a really interesting stat to add to an Uber Saw, and I don't necessarily think it's good to encourage Medic to go into combat more, but at the same time, to be able to heal your entire team for, we'll get to the damage number exactly in a little bit, but basically to heal your entire team health per hit that you do on an enemy, I think would be a super interesting concept, and especially like if there's a bunch of enemies, if Medic was able to get a couple cheeky hits off, then that's basically just 100 health gain to literally everybody, so I don't know if this would be a good weapon or not. It's definitely experimental. I wanted to come up with something a little bit more original than just like, oh, it's just basically a lesser Uber Saw, so we'll see. Anyway, the reasoning for each of the stats, the 25% firing speed and 15% damage penalty, I think that works out to about 50 damage per hit, and the extra firing speed just means that you're getting more hits. Essentially, this would basically make it a little bit more consistent to get health. It would take 3 swings to kill most enemies instead of 2, but again, that's just more health restored. That's 150 health restored per teammate no matter what. And I included the weapon switch speed just to make it a little bit easier for Medic to kind of manage actually going into combat quickly. So, I mean, and it was already like in the pre-generated stats, so I wanted to kind of leave it in. And then the unhit Medic and nearby teammates are healed the damage dealt. Essentially what this would do is, and I put guards in it, so, or I put a con that would make it so Medic can't just stay alive forever by dealing damage, but essentially it would make it so by dealing damage to opponents, Medic would be able to like heal his teammates. And I kind of wanted to include this because I know a lot of people go battle medic, and it's like people get frustrated at battle medics because they aren't really contributing toward the team at all. But by having this melee, not only would this end up having a slightly higher DPS than normal melees, but it would also allow the medic to contribute to his team. And then I included the max 150% overheal, so that way it's not just like completely dumb. Like, I feel like if the taunt on the amputator gave overheal and healed a little bit more, medics would be a lot more prone to using it, but like this would pretty much be the battle medic's dream, I think. So, and then the minus 40% uber gain from healing done by this weapon, I chose 40 as a random number. I think honestly like 25 would be just equally as much of a penalty, but like because you're gonna be healing so many teammates at the same time, it would be a little bit crazy if you were able to pretty much get like all of your Uber extremely quickly just by dealing damage to enemies. So I wanted to make it like not just like an Uber farm. I want the intention of this to be healing and not Uber farming. And then minus 60% healing received is kind of to prevent this from being, because the medic does heal himself by dealing damage. And I wanted to include just a little bit to make it so he can still stay alive if he needs. But 50 health restored to the medic per hit would make him a little bit of a nuisance to take down. So I did the minus 60% healing received, so that way like even if he's being pocketed, he's not going to be like completely invincible. And this would also allow other medics to farm Uber off of you and would allow you to take kind of like a sub-healing role, because TF2 doesn't really have any of those, and I think that it would be an interesting subclass for medic, but it would also make it so you only restore, I think that's, 20 healing or 20 health per hit yourself, so still not negatable, but at the same point it's not overwhelming. And then no random crits generated on this weapon naturally, but I think obviously the ability to random crit somebody and immediately heal your entire team for 150 is a little bit dumb, so we'll try to spread out the healing as much as possible. So looking at the options for bone saws, most of them look exactly like the medics. Now, I feel like something like this would be interesting because although it's visually similar to the medics just in terms of like color and everything, it has a much different silhouette because of, like the little swooshy bit right there. This is a decent option to work with, but I want to try to find something a little bit more original, I guess. I don't really know, like, what exactly the medic would be using. I feel like most of his options are still pretty, like, based around the original bone saw. He doesn't really have anything that's like way out there, so I'll have to keep that in mind because I don't want to start that trend necessarily. Actually, no, I take that back. I completely forgot about the solemn vow. So now I don't feel bad about choosing something completely weird because I know that, especially because this is going to be more attack oriented, I can choose something a little bit more aggressive looking than just a saw. Okay. No way, a German sword saw? Okay, we have to do this now. I don't know if this is a real thing or if this is from World War Heroes or whatever, and that's like they just invented this. But this, I'm stealing this concept, frick that. So again, because this is going to be a little bit more offensively oriented, since it encourages Medic to get in there, get his hands dirty and whatnot, I think choosing a sword is pretty appropriate for the job. Wool, I like this one especially, not just because it's German, but because it, like, still kind of looks like something the medic would use. I'll probably, make it a little less decorated. This looks very fancy and probably not along the lines of the rest of medic's, like, weird bloodied stuff, but, the general aesthetic actually fits TF2 strikingly well. And because the Solemn Vow actually has a unique attack animation, we could just say that that would be what this weapon uses, because I feel like, I know that's not exactly how you use like a sword, but I feel like in terms of basically a glorified serrated machete, which is pretty much what this is, that would be a fairly decent method of cutting people. So then I feel like something like this is going to be pretty appropriate for the handle. I am taking a lot of inspiration from the thing that I've seen as my reference, but I generally like how it looks. I think they did a pretty good job kind of getting the concept down, and honestly, I don't think there's that much need for improvement. Okay, I feel like this looks very similar to a lot of the other swords in the game, so what I'm gonna end up doing is we'll make this a little bit more cutlass shaped, and just kind of bring this down like that, probably. I don't know. It's just like between the proportions of the middle bit being off and just the silhouette being maybe too similar to like the Eyelander or something. Oh, I feel like a little bit of change is necessary. Yeah, something like this. This is a little bit uneven, but like, dude, I'm drawing with the mouse. I'm not gonna sit here for like 3 years and try to make this like literally a perfect curve. I guess I could use the line tool, but that would be cheating. We need to draw these by hand. So I'm gonna decide what I'm going to do with this little emblem piece right here in a little bit, but I think in terms of the hilt, this is about as good as we're gonna get, so let's do the blade now. And I think a rusted aesthetic would definitely benefit this a little bit because obviously Medic is not concerned with keeping his tools sanitary. He don't got no medical license to follow. So here's kind of like what I was thinking for the blade, like definitely serrated, and I didn't draw the most even lines here, but it's not super important that these are even. I mean, for all we know, this could be part of Medic's character. He draws the line, or he freaking makes his serrated edge purposefully uneven so it hurts more. We're really stretching my bad art skills, but I think we get the point. And I know I've referred to my art skills as bad. I think they're fine personally, but I'm just too lazy to do specific things. Yep, I think this is it. This is the final thing. The entire existence is the blade, and every time Medic swings, he hits everybody. Let's do... Okay, there we go. That's better. And now I'm trying to think of how swords work, because... would this part be connected to the hilt? I know that's like... I just don't like the way this looks here. We will just do this and we'll like round that off. I think that once I figure out how this freaking functions, will look better. Yeah. Generally, I think this is looking good. Okay, I know I didn't do the most perfect job making everything look even, but I actually quite like the way that this is turning out silhouette-wise. I meant to make the blade a little bit thinner, but I'm kind of glad I made this mistake because I think it makes it look a little bit more consistent with what you'd expect to see on a Medic melee. Now, it did not escape me that the serrated edge is pointing towards you, so I should probably fix that. Dang it. What am I doing? Okay, there we go. Now the handguard actually works as intended, and it has this thing that curves up which I think is supposed to make it easier to block swords. I don't know what the purpose of that is, but I know medieval weapons have them, so this is, I think, a really good base of what I was picturing. Ironically, I think the other two turned out looking better, but this looks more like what I was imagining, so I don't know if that just means my imagination sucks or what, but I think this looks like something the medic would use. So now what I was thinking for this little emblem here, let me see, what exactly does the amputator look like? Because I know the amputator has the medic emblem here too, but I think it would be a little neat addition. Okay, so the amputator has like, it has a plus, but I actually think including, the more I think about it, the more I think that like including something like this on the melee would be a little bit better, because then it kind of gives the visual cue that this does range healing. So I guess we can just make this a thing. So I'm going to do this pretty close to what the amputator is doing. We'll bump up the brush size a little bit here. This is a little too big. So really it's just a ring of like yellow around the outside, and then once you get into the inside, it's red, and then it's a white plus in the middle, or a cross. I don't know what the frick the, like, healing... Why is the healing thing a cross? Is that, like, related to Christianity? I don't actually know. So, yeah, I think this is a pretty solid depiction of the weapon. I'm gonna give it a little bit more details, and then we'll go on to naming this. So I went ahead and I added some ketchup to the edge of the blade here. The medic is a sauce connoisseur and likes to use instruments such as these to open his ketchup packets and maybe even hot sauce. You can use your own imagination without me directly stating it to the YouTube monetization system what is on the edge of the blade. I don't know if I like the ketchup on here. I think the clean blade looks really nice, but I think doing this makes it a little bit thematic with Team Fortress 2. But then again, like, I don't know. I feel like the fact that it is a sword already makes it, like, obvious enough that it's supposed to be used for, like, combat. You can, okay, let me know, first of all, whether you like the blood, and second of all, any design changes you'd want to make to this. I think the silhouette of this is nice and unique, but I'm not satisfied with what I have, and part of it's just me not wanting to spend a ton of time on this, but yeah, it's here's this. Let's go name this now, I think. So actually, I don't even have to try to reference anything, because as I was designing this weapon, I thought of two really, really good ones, and I'm actually not sure which one I want to choose, because I think they're both, like, really solid choices. So the first one is the redistribution of health, because you're dealing damage to enemies and you're adding that health back to teammates. So yeah, that'll be fun. And then the second one is the best defense, because I mean, you're doing healing by attacking people. Both of them I think work pretty good. I don't like 100%. I'm not set on either. I think they're both like 9 out of 10 options, but neither of them quite reach the 10 out of 10 mark. Wait, is the best defense something in Overwatch? Let me check. Okay, I was right. This actually is something from Overwatch, though I don't think this influenced my decision because I couldn't freaking remember whether it was or not. Either way, with this in mind, I highly doubt that an obscure passive skill in Overwatch is going to be, like, copyrighted. Although I don't know, because both of them kind of do the same thing. I'll leave it up to you. We're gonna call this, I think, the first one, and then you can let me know which one you like more. Oh god, what is this font? I was trying to use something fancy. Oh, this is just a designer's nightmare. What the frick is this? Is it possible to adjust kerning? No, I frankly don't think Paint.net cares about kerning. I think if you're using Paint.net, they just kind of assume you don't know what the word kerning means. So here is the best defense. I went with the best defense because it's shorter and the redistribution of health is freaking long. Let me know, okay, I already did the open naming one. Let me know which one of those two you like more, and I guess if you have any other suggestions, I'd also be super open. Naming weapons is just kind of my downfall. Like, I spend all my energy, like, drawing them, and yeah, but anyway, this one I think would actually be a super interesting one if it was added into the game. I still don't know if people would use it over the Uber Saw, but I feel like this would be, like, the meta for combat medic, and honestly, I think adding combat medic and making it so it's like a viable thing you can do while also supporting your team would be really neat. I know I bring like Overwatch into every single comparison that I make with these videos, but I think that Overwatch has like a lot more niche roles that Team Fortress 2 could certainly try to incorporate with the weapons that it has. And like as someone who deals damage and also heals their team at the same time, which I know Bridget in Overwatch does, would be a very interesting role for Team Fortress 2, especially because like the concept of a battle medic's already a thing. And if you had the crossbow, the vaccinator, and then this, you'd be in really good shape in terms of like things that you'd be able to do while battle medicing. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm always curious to hear your guys' feedback on my drawings, my weapons, the names, literally anything. I mean, this is definitely a feedback ready series that I always read the comments of these two. So yeah, leave anything that you want me to know in the comments, and also I guess I was going to say, let me know whether you want me to do this again, but I pretty much am going to do this again because this is pretty much a fan favorite series. So thank you guys for watching. Probably the next class will be whatever the wheel picks, and have a good one.